Hey guys, so I made a video a few days ago about when it makes sense to go specific and when it makes sense to go general with your intentions. I'll link to that if I remember. I'm really sorry. I know I say I'm going to link to things and I forget. Hopefully I'll remember to link to that. But if not, the basic gist of the video is if you know exactly what you want and you have no doubts, no reservations about getting it, there's no reason not to go specific. Like if you know exactly what you want, go for it. Especially if you're ready to have it right now, it will just happen really fast. In my experience, there's been no specific thing, and there have only been a handful of things like this, because for me, specific things like there are a range of options all the time for almost everything. And it's very rare that there is just like one specific thing that you must have. And in the cases where I've found that to be true for myself, I've gotten that specific thing. Like, for example, quickly, I have an online retail business, and I carry a product line from a bunch of different companies. And there was a company whose product line I wanted to carry specifically. I loved their stuff. I loved their designers. I loved all this. This was a very specific thing. I wanted this specific thing. And it wasn't like it was like my whole business was riding on this. I didn't need it. I had lots of other stuff. I was already a millionaire. You know what I mean? It didn't really matter. But I really wanted this specific line of stuff. And they told me no. They told me I couldn't carry their stuff. And it was kind of unfair and didn't really make a lot of sense. And so I kept at that in my mind. I kept coming back to it. I kept thinking about it. I kept wanting it. And then, you know, I would go through this little cycle where it would come up, I'd think about it, I'd be like, oh, I really want it, but I can't have it because they said no. So I would just let it go. I just go, who cares? I don't need it. Blah, let it go. Probably did that 5 or 6 times. And then a miraculous series of events transpired where a person that I knew that shouldn't have even ever met me, who shouldn't have been in this position, just the chess moves that had to happen in order to put this person in the right place to call me and be like, hey, do you want to carry this stuff? It was like I didn't have to do shit. It just came to me. That's happened with a lot of different specific things like that. I wanted a specific car that they stopped making in a specific trim, you know, a specific year. I wanted it to be new. Like I had this very specific car that I wanted, and there didn't appear to be one anywhere nearby. It looked like I was going to have to drive to New Jersey for the only one that I could find in the whole country. And then it turned out that there was one at a dealership right by me that had been listed as the wrong color. And I just happened to see it. And it was the exact car down to the detail that I was looking for. And it was like 30 miles away. Anytime there's been something like that. But, you know, even in those cases, it's not like there wasn't something else that would do. You know, it's not like if I hadn't been able to get this car that I'm sitting in, then you know, no car will ever do. It wasn't like if I didn't get that product line that there weren't other awesome product lines for me to I was already carrying those and selling those. But, you know, there's a specific thing. I focused on it. I was ready to get it right now. I saw that car. I was there that day. I bought it immediately. Literally, I bought it 2 hours after I saw it. Same thing with the product line. When it showed up and they offered me an account, I spent $100,000 that week on those. Like, I was ready to get it. So this is all like kind of important, you know, and I think it's part of what opens the door to really random like series of events happening, where you just go, holy shit, like all these moving parts came together to bring this thing to me, and I was ready and I grabbed it the second it was there. So, okay, that was like a mini recap. For everything else, you go general, basically. For everything else, you say, okay, I think I have an idea what I want. You have to define what you want, generally. It has to be specific while still being broad in order for anything to happen. You can't just be very vague about what you want. You know, if you want a romantic relationship, you're like, okay, I know that I want a romantic relationship that is committed and monogamous. I don't know anything else. I don't know who it has to be with. I don't know a lot more about it. I just know that I want to be like, I want to be in a committed, monogamous, romantic situation. That is very broad. However, it is also clearly defined what you want. It's not like, I want love. You know, it's more defined than that. And you don't even have to go that far, honestly. Just be like, I want a romantic love in my life. If you don't know if you want it to be monogamous, just as long as you have something defined, something to work with. That's about as specific as you need to get in order to start the ball rolling. You can be totally general for everything else. But so I got a comment this morning on that video or one like it about my house. So briefly, I was in a situation, an undesirable living situation in a condo that had previously been desirable. It turned undesirable. Matt moved in with me. It was a little too small for us because I had some issues with neighbors. And it took about a year for me to get to the point where I really wanted to move. Moving sucks. I didn't want to pack my shit and move. But I finally got to the point where I really wanted to move. So pause for a second. The comment that I got this morning was basically, why didn't you just manifest away the neighbors that you didn't like? Why did you have to move? Basically, like, I think I took issue with the had to move part because that's kind of like saying you didn't get what you really wanted, and that's not the case for me in this situation. So I was at the point where I wanted to move, and I already kind of wanted to move because it was a little too small for me and Matt. And so I think, in a situation like that where there's an undesirable element, and there was kind of a lot of moving parts in that situation. Like there's a bad real estate market right now. It's really expensive to buy a house. So I didn't want to do that. I personally, because of my business setup and my finances and my taxes and stuff, getting a mortgage is a little more complicated than just like going in with a pay stub. And I just didn't feel like dealing with it, honestly. I especially don't like doing stuff like that, and I really didn't want to do it last year. My dad died at the beginning of last year, and the whole year last year was just kind of like, I don't want to do anything. So like all of the obvious solutions to the problem, the conventional 3D solutions to the problem, weren't looking good. I guess the reason that I didn't just focus all of my attention on manifesting the upstairs neighbor changing, that's just kind of antithetical to my philosophy about this whole thing. That to me would be being very specific in a situation where I didn't specifically know what I wanted. I mean, I didn't even really want to still live there. So solving the problem that way just wasn't something that, it just isn't where I went. I just didn't go that way. I just knew that I wanted to move, period. That was it. That was the only thing I knew for sure. I know I want to move. So I guess that answers the question. I didn't feel like wasting any of my effort on the person upstairs because I already knew I wanted to move. So, yeah, how that played out was, for those of you who are still with me here and who haven't already been watching my channel this year, how that played out was, so I was ready to move, didn't want to overpay for a house, so I was just kind of like, buying a house is out of the question. Didn't want to get a mortgage, even if I could get myself to get over the inflated prices. I really just didn't feel like going through the hassle of trying to get a mortgage with Matt, with my fiance, because it's like, then it's more complicated. There's two people's shit that I just didn't feel like doing it. I just didn't want to. And so how that ended up resolving itself was about a week, maybe 2 weeks after I had the memorable thought, I don't care if I have to like pack all my shit today. I am ready to move. Like, I'm ready. Too bad that this isn't like, the bottom of a market, because I would just be out there buying a house today. That's how ready I am. I am ready to do this today. To me, this is one of the most important things. If you feel that you're completely ready for something, you know what? Like, good luck anything stopping you from getting it if you have the right mindset. Matt and I were supposed to go visit his mom, I think, for Christmas. Yeah, we were supposed to, it was like December 16th or something. And she lives like 3 hours away. And on her side, by her, there was a big windstorm. There was like some thing that just like cropped up suddenly, this big windstorm. Like, really, it hadn't been forecast because we were planning on driving there and we would have heard about it if it had been like forecast the day before. This big windstorm just like showed up. It just showed up. And she called us and said, don't come. We had our bags on the bed. We were like packing up our backpacks to leave. We were going to get in the car and leave. And she just said, hey guys, don't come. Like, there's a windstorm here. Trucks are falling over on the highway. Just don't come. And we wouldn't have even known because nothing happened by us. So we were like, okay, we didn't end up going. So later that day, I'm home when I'm not supposed to be. I drive by a house. I see a sign going up. I think, oh, it's a house I've driven by 1,000 times in my life. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting house. I've always kind of wondered what that looks like on the inside. Wonder how much they want. I'm sure it's like 500 grand or some ridiculous amount. I didn't even give it another thought. I just was like, I can't have that. It's just too expensive. That's just not for me. Just like, that was my thought. Didn't even go look at it or anything, look it up online. The next day, that night, the upstairs person was especially obnoxious. I had to pound on the ceiling at like 4 a.m, which I am a non-confrontational person. So for me to do that, for me to actually act and do that, it has to be pretty bad. It had been going on for like an hour at 4 a.m. And the next morning I woke up exhausted and I just thought, fuck, this situation sucks. Fuck, this situation sucks. And then, you know, I'm thinking about, God, I wish we could move. And then I thought, oh, I wonder how much that house is. I got my phone next to me in bed. Open up my phone, look up the house. It is within my cash purchase price range. So no mortgage. It's undervalued somehow. Instead of being $100,000 too much, it's like what I would expect it to be in a normal to depressed market. Absolutely mind-blowing to this day. My sister-in-law is a real estate agent who is all over the state doing stuff. I called her right away, and she happened to be in town at that moment, available to go over there with me to look at the house. I was like, meet me there in an hour. Oh my God. So we get over there. We're the second people that have seen it. It's only been on the market for 3 hours. We see it. It's perfect. It's awesome. It's a totally unique house in this town. It's perfect for me and Matt. It's right in the same neighborhood as where I was already living, which I didn't particularly want to move away from. And it's just perfect. And it turns out that the listing agent is a buddy of my sister-in-law. So she calls him, they talk, you know, she's basically like, what do we have to do to get this house? And made an offer. They accepted the offer immediately. So basically in the morning, woke up, had no clue how any of this was going to resolve itself. Didn't think I'd be moving away from the condo situation. Literally that morning, 5 hours later, had a signed contract on a purchase. Just an absolutely crazy series of events. And by the way, the reason that the house, you know, later I found out, the reason that they were selling the house for so little was because the person who owned it was like, had Alzheimer's or something. It was in Florida, like needing care that they did not have money for, like at that moment. Like they needed the money now. I had the cash to buy the house now. It all came together beautifully. They were like, they wanted it to be sold immediately. They got lucky that they didn't have to worry about somebody else getting an inspection and getting an appraisal and getting financing, because I just paid for it with cash. We didn't do any of that stuff. We closed, I think, 3 weeks later. So it worked out for everybody. I got a great price. I didn't overpay. In fact, I underpaid. The house is already appreciated. I've already made like 40 grand on the house since buying it. So crazy. Actually, it's probably more than that now because it was already undervalued by that much. But yeah, that's the reason that I don't go specific on things where I don't 100% know that like this is a unique thing. There are always a million solutions to a problem. And if you think you know what the right solution is, it's really helpful to me to be saying this right now because of course you can imagine the rest of my life. I always run into situations like this, like everybody. You know, thinking you know the right solution to something is counterproductive. You can kind of have an idea of what you think will fix it, but when you get rigid and you think you know the best way, you shut out all of the possibilities for something better. And everybody always like, it's really the specific person, people I think, that rail against something better because they're so obsessed with the specific person that the idea of the better person actually seems like the worst person to them. That's how skewed the perception is. When you leave the general possibilities open, you will often get something far better than what you could have possibly imagined for yourself because you simply aren't looking at you're looking at this from the ground level perspective. You're not looking at it from 35,000 feet, looking down and seeing all the moving parts and how they go together and all the different options that could play out for you. So if I had just manifested, if I had taken the route of focusing on my neighbors and like manifesting them not being there, let's say, manifesting them being friendly, or just if I had focused on that, like, here's the problem and here's the solution, and now I'm gonna like hammer away at that until I get it, I would have completely missed this whole thing. Like, so why would you ever do that? All you have to have is a couple of experiences like that. And I think if you're smart, you'll get to a point where you realize, I just don't have the wisdom to know what is right for me in most situations. I just don't. I'm a human. I'm not a god. You know, I'm connected to the thing that can do that, but I got to go through that thing. I can't rely on my own human judgment to necessarily know what is going to be the right thing to fix this problem. You know, when you get to the point where you just kind of naturally, that's just your natural reaction, life flows pretty easily. I mean, that situation was crazy. I put no mental effort into solving that problem. I put the vast majority of my effort into thinking about something else and just saying, yeah, I don't see a solution to this, so I'm not going to think about it. I don't see a solution to this, so I'm not going to think about it is a great way to deal with problems. Not to like ignore something that needs your attention. Okay, that's not what I mean. I just mean that when you can't see how to fix something, you turn it over to the thing that can see how to fix something and just let it happen. And don't think about it and try to toil over figuring it out when you've already done that and you can't come to the right conclusion. You can't come to the conclusion that solves the problem. So all of that to say, that is why I did not just manifest away the problem that was in my environment. I really wanted to not live there anyway. So I was, I guess, kind of turned off by anything, probably in general, that had to do with prolonging that situation. When an obvious solution was to move, I just couldn't see how to do it. It wasn't like, oh, I love this condo. It's been in my family for 170 years and it has all this sentimental value. I bought it in 2017. It's in a building. I didn't intend to live there forever anyway. So, yeah. I hope that helps somebody or entertains somebody. And I think it answered the question or addressed the comment in more detail. So have a great day.